All right. Hey. This is Valencia. This is Valencia Echoes in the Earth Realm. Here with the message that I talked about from yesterday as it relates to divine feminines and divine masculines with karmic mothers who are also black widows. If you can even notice, like, I'm not as perky as I normally am or whatever. This energy is very dark, it's very heavy, it's very uncomfortable. And I almost don't even want to share it. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm a very private person. I don't share my personal life and things like that. But Spirit keeps sending me messages telling me that I have to do it, right? Like, Spirit is saying that this is a part of your healing. This is a part of your life story. Your story is going to help free other people. Your story is going to help other people know that they're not crazy. A lot of people have experienced some of the same things, but they just couldn't put, either a name on it, or they can identify it, or they've never heard it out loud. And when they hear it out loud, it makes things like click and get into place or whatever. I'm so sorry, y'all. I feel like I might even start to cry because there's so many things that Spirit has just been revealing to me as it relates to my life and, my purpose and why I'm here and, being of service to the world. Often, the things that we are meant to do in this lifetime is a result of some things that we have experienced in other lifetimes. Sometimes it's things generationally. Okay. So, okay, so already, Jesus Christ. Okay. So, divine feminines that have karmic mothers that are also black widows. Your mother does not necessarily have to be your birth mother, okay? Which is the story for me, okay? A black widow, as we all know, is someone that uses their mate for like their gain. So sometimes it's for money, sometimes it's for breeding purposes, to have children. And then once they're finished with them, they end up killing their mates, right? In this sense, some of you may have had your parents pass away, meaning like your mom and your dad were together, your dad might have died, your mom and your dad were together. Okay, so your mom and your dad may have been together and your dad might have died, right? But your dad already had the kids by her or whatever. Another example is black widows that are not your actual mothers. So they could be like grandmothers, they could be aunties, they could be like godmothers, they could be women that are that adopt children. And for my specific story, my birth mother was murdered. But I was told all my life that she was killed in a fire while she was working in a basement, working an overnight shift. And there were some things that were provided or granted, as a result. But what spirit revealed to me was this was my karmic mother's way. This was her plan of trying to kill me. Okay. After I had my baby, I started working overnight. I was working, doing what I do for work, counseling. I was working in a facility where we were doing telehealth counseling. I was working in the basement of this building because they were remodeling all the buildings. And like this week leading up, while I was working at this company towards the end of the year in December or whatever, this was last year. I was working shifts where, you know, we could either work from home or work in the office, but typically we don't have to work by ourselves. This one night, I ended up on a call when everybody else had left, and it was over like a great bit of time where I was stuck on the phone. It was a crisis call, so it was a whole bunch of like craziness going on. I was trying to keep, you know, the man from committing suicide, all type of things. After I got off the call, I started hearing like some sparking noise like in the ceiling, and I remember like the week leading up that, you know, there were men coming in doing construction, doing work in the ceiling, and the ceiling was near actually where I was working. So after I finished processing with the man, Spirit told me, get up and get out of there, right? Because I was just going to stay and finish working, like finishing my shift, because I had like 4 more hours. But Spirit told me to get up and get out of there. Once I got up and finished what I needed to do and leave, as I was driving home, Spirit told me, this is how your mother was going to kill you. And she's been telling you how she was going to kill you all your life. Okay? Now let me back up, okay? So I was adopted, my mother was murdered. But again, I've been told all my life that my mother died in a basement from a fire while she was at work, which was a lie, okay? My mother was murdered. She was murdered in an apartment building. And still to this day, the murder is not solved. Now, what Spirit has been revealing to me is that not only did my foster mother have something to do with it, but there are other murders in which she has done, and these were sacrifices, okay? So if you listen to my videos from yesterday, these are sacrifices that she has done. And it's all about money. It's all about inheritance, okay? And this is what Black Widows do. They want inheritance. They want children. They want money. They want property. They want assets, okay? And so Spirit started revealing to me that the demon or the devil that the karmic mother is, more specifically in my life, she's dealing with or working with a demon or a devil that is succubus. And so if you don't know what that is, Google it. But more specifically, it's people that live in the lower levels of life. So like prostitutes, drug dealers, you know, these type of people, people that prey on children and things like that, things of those nature. And so she lures people in with that energy, right? Prostitutes, like I said, pimps, drug dealers, hustlers, you know, all these types of things. Strippers. And Spirit says that anytime somebody does something, like we all have patterns. So anytime that anyone does something, they have a pattern. Now, I had a few conversations with a few people, and one of my cousins was advising me that when my mother resided in a certain place, my foster mother, like her birthplace or whatever, that they referred to her as the Black Widow, right? Both of her husbands had died, whether it was, you know, by an accident or, you know, died in the hospital or whatever. They were saying that she was a Black Widow, right? Because both of her husbands had died. And that she never remarried again. And so we were always advised that, that she never remarried again because of the fact that she didn't want any men coming in to touch us and hurt us, which is, that's good, right? You don't want nobody to, have to mess with your kids, because if they do, then, it's going to be a whole nother thing. So that's good. But with the Black Widow, if she did marry again, you understand, she would kill her husband, right? Because that's what they do. Once they get what it is that they need, then, that's it. Now, there was an inheritance given to her from her second husband. I know that for sure. I'm not sure about the first husband, okay? And this is what happens. Again, there's assets, there's property, there's things that are given, okay? Now, again, these are things that are being revealed to me from Spirit, okay? So, as it relates to me in my life, right? So, I don't know too much about my family. Again, I was adopted, but most of my siblings that I've been adopted with, they all know their families. They all know their parents and things like that. And most of us all had some type of inheritance, right? And so when we get back to the succubus energy, right? All of the children, at least from the ones that I know, right? So, okay, it's so hard, right? So, from my knowledge, there are my last little batch of children that she had. There are children that came from the 70s, and there are children that came from the 80s. Okay, the children that she had from the 70s and the 80s, all of those children were spiritually gifted, and all of those children had some type of inheritance financially. Okay. My mother was murdered in a hotel. One of my other sister's mother was murdered in a hotel. And from the most part, none of these murders have ever been solved. And again, if they're, if they are people that are like prostitutes or strippers and things like that, people don't really typically look twice at this because they're thinking that it's drug related. They're thinking that it's, a trick that's gone bad or whatever. Okay. But what Spirit is revealing to me is that somehow or another, these women came across the Black Widow, which would be the foster mother. And they didn't maybe want to comply with her anymore, right? Because she's a very evil woman. She's a covert narcissist, so most people don't even know that she's this person. But they either did not do what she wanted them to do, or they tried to get away from her from what she was doing. And as a result, if she didn't do it personally, she had something to do with them dying. Okay?
What a coincidence!
These were sacrifices. So she then takes their children and she raises their children as her own. And the inheritance is received.
I want you to meet my new friend.
That's the Black Widow. In my specific case, there was a lot of money that was received from me very early on in life. Things that I had even no idea about. Spirit has revealed to me. And by the time I had gotten knowledge of the money that was given to me or was supposed to be given to me, all the money had been disposed of.
Heard of elephants? Of course I've heard of elephants, Molly. No, behind you. A herd of elephants.
Fast forward.
Uh-oh.
I've always been like really, really close with my foster mother. And at least in my opinion, right? Because I kind of thought that I always had kind of like a really good childhood and, things of that nature. I didn't really think I had a bad childhood. In the typical African American family, you have like your ups and downs and, fights and things of that nature with the siblings, especially if you grew up in a big household. So, those type of things are normal. But Spirit started to reveal to me that no, things were not maybe as copacetic as you think. She used to talk very heavily about how when I was younger I used to cry a lot, and how she used to put me in a room by myself in the dark and just let me cry. And some of my siblings will contest to this, that I would just like cry. And Spirit was saying that what was happening during these times is that there were, I was being put into a room and I was being attacked by spirits. This is what was happening to me. And this is why I was crying. And then also because I wanted to be with my mother, okay, because I was a little child. And so Spirit said the only reason why I was so close to my mother is because even as a little child, she was not able to turn me. She wasn't able to use me for lower vibrational frequencies. And so as such, she had to keep me close, right? Spirit said that she often tapped into me specifically so that she could use my gifts, right? I'm still not fully aware. I know that I'm a healer, but I'm not like fully aware like of all of my, like my gifts. You get gifts from your bloodline, your family, but then you also, when you're born, sometimes you inherited gifts specifically from your maternal line, or you specifically get gifts from your fraternal line, your father. And what Spirit is saying is that there are spiritual gifts that are handed down specifically in our bloodline that come from the women. And there is something that that was done, which allowed her to be able to utilize kind of like my gifts. And as I grew older and I started going to church and things like that, I started to awaken. And then once these things happened, she wasn't able to use me the way that she used to use me, which then created like a ripple effect. And anyone that knows anything about narcissists, they are very controlling, they're very dominated. They want to use you, they want to abuse you, they want to make you feel crazy, so that when you do, or if you do try to slip up from under them, then their whole attempt is to try to destroy you. So if they can't destroy you mentally, emotionally, verbally, then the next thing is physically, which is what I believe happened to my mother as a result. Okay. So Spirit is saying that
what does wildlife mean?
This is the reason why I was so close, because she could not control me even as a child, so she had to keep me close. And so she had to feed me all of these things, because even as a young child, I always questioned everything. I always wanted to know why things were this way. But more importantly, there was an inheritance, and there was a huge inheritance, and it required me to be alive in order for her to receive it as well, okay? So that was like the main thing. The inheritance is gone. It's been used up. And again, I would have never known that it was there or what have you, unless, Spirit would have gave it to me, because I know nothing about my family, my bloodline, okay? So when it comes to the twin flame journey and being a divine feminine, she's aware of this. She has spiritual gifts. She knows how to do psychic mind reading attacks. She knows how to look into the future, and if she doesn't know how to look into the future, she'll go to other people and have them look into you. And Spirit has advised me that she has been using more specifically women that are from Africa to not only attack me, but to also look into my future to see kind of what I have going on, so that she can block it. Okay. Even more recently, Spirit says that she's been using Haitian voodoo priests. Okay. Now this all makes sense, because like right after I had my daughter, the thing with my soon-to-be ex-husband is a whole nother story in itself, because he was an agent assigned to me to keep me asleep as well. She sent me to one of them to try to turn me, but it was supposed to be some type of like battle between me and my husband. This was supposed to be some ongoing thing, and I removed myself from the situation, which tarnished her plan once again. And Spirit is saying that
U is for uniform. Uniforms are make-believe.
This was another attempt to try to like annihilate me and assassinate me in some type of way. So once I had my daughter, she started creating this from and what I'm learning now with narcissists, they create smear campaigns. So she started telling everybody, I'm not doing as good as I used to. I'm having a hard time after I had the baby. And she keeps saying this type of stuff. And Spirit kept making me like go back to where I'm from, making sure that I pop up, making sure that people will see me and all these other things. And it was like the smear campaign wasn't working, even though she's done this to my other siblings, right? So it's like once you leave the household of a narcissist, like you are an enemy now, because they can't control you, because they don't know what information you're getting. They don't know who you're talking to. So now you're an enemy. And this has been done to almost all of my siblings. So like one of my older siblings, once she left the house and she started getting greater knowledge and things like that, then all of a sudden she's crazy and all these other things, started happening. And it's because she was was creating all these hardships for her. She was sending these attacks to her to make her crazy. But really what it was attacking her spiritual gifts, okay? And mind you, every single one of my siblings have been attacked by her, whether they consciously acknowledge it or not. I mean, some of them are still dependent on her, so, you know, they may or may not acknowledge it. But every single one of my siblings have been attacked by her in some form or fashion, okay? And this is all for control. So going back to that, so with the Haitian voodoo priest, I would always ask my mom. I had gotten to a tough place after I had the baby because I stopped working, and I got behind on my mortgage. Now this was all type of hardships that were happening, and I'm gonna try to go over that as well. But I started experiencing all these type of hardships after I had the baby, after I got married, all these things. So the marriage was cursed, okay? And she's the one that kind of pushed me towards getting married as well. And this is because she knew that my inheritance, like my life purpose, was connected to my marriage, which is most divine feminines and divine masculines. Most of your inheritance, like your legacy, your money, the way you're going to make generational wealth and things of that nature, is connected to your marriage. And my husband is an actual karmic. He's not my twin flame. He's not my divine masculine. He's a karmic. He's somebody that I was meant to learn a lesson from, right? A major lesson about myself from a past life. And so as a result, getting married, this created another soul contract between him and I, because we created a soul contract once we got married, and then there was another soul contract that happened once we had the baby, right? So this is the newest contract. So with that, there was like a whole bunch of things going on. Like when I went to visit this tarot reader, who now I'm learning was a Haitian voodoo priest, which she's the one that gave me money to go. All right. Hey, this is Valencia.